create actually interesting destinations, interesting anchors for people to walk to, it is possible. You know, in this particular case, we're showing a school in the upper right corner. There is the school, and you will see where the center will be happening as the collector road in the lower end of the drawing. So one of the techniques is to create a kind of a spine of a slightly higher density, which connects the two points of interest, the two destinations. The overall objective for these types of developments is to kind of rebalance their overall structure, to introduce new building types, because you know they have only one single family type building type, to also connect as much as possible. We know it's difficult sometimes. Some of the cul-de-sacs are done with some environmental reason, you know, there are wetlands or some features. In most cases, the cul-de-sacs have become kind of the default urban design tool for planners. You know, put cul-de-sacs, and then the community seems very safe for children. So connectivity, connecting the cul-de-sacs will be another big challenge. Connecting to the collector, introducing office buildings, and even making some of the houses, some of the McMansions, converting some of the McMansions into multifamily, especially the ones which are on the edges with the new neighborhood center. And you can see here, this is the existing repetitive pattern of single-family houses and cul-de-sacs, and how it can be actually converted or repaired into a neighborhood which has a main public space. It has a bus stop. It has a very different attitude towards the collector road on the edge. We're making out of the collector, we're making a boulevard with access lanes. So it's basically a new frontage on this, kind of highly trafficked street, but also, the square has a relationship to on the other side of the collector where some further development can happen. Here I will show you, just for this sprawl repair type, I will show you the step-by-step design algorithms or design techniques. First, we look at the deficiencies of the single building type, which needs to be rebalanced. Then the second diagram shows the lack of walkable blocks. And then the third one is the residual open space, which needs to be rebalanced, and how basically these are the steps going through the different deficiencies, introduce new building types and mixed use, adding townhouses, live-work units, office space, multifamily units to create a kind of multiple choices for these new generations. Connect and repair the thoroughfares, as I said, connecting some cul-de-sacs. Also looking at the existing thoroughfares and making them a little bit more pedestrian friendly, whether it will be with medians, creating sidewalks, bicycle lanes, or landscape, or things like that. Kind of deliverable streets strategies for streetscape. Define open and civic space in places where the space was only residual, kind of behind in the backyard, to try to make sense of some public space, gathering space, more symbolic and also of social important function. Also, one thing which many suburban communities can benefit from is to integrate local food production within these neighborhoods, whether it's in the own lot of the personal the scale of a single lot, or it's kind of the space in between lots. They can create community gardens, or even in public spaces. Some allotments can be assigned. So this is something which kind of today with urban agriculture or agrarian urbanism and all these things kind of becoming very popular. This is something to explore, and suburban communities actually have a good chance because in many cases they're very close to agricultural land, but they have never taken advantage in their physical form to be better connected to such activities. The rezoning, which I spoke about, there is a sharp contrast between the conventional zoning on the left side, the single building type, and then a kind of the much more complex, finely grained zoning on the right, where different building types are allowed within zones, and basically the use within these zones is not that dramatic. Actually, in some cases it can be interchangeable. Townhouses can be live-work units can be only townhouses in some form, depending on the market and the shifts of the market. So this flexibility actually will be very helpful within the process of sprawl repair. If kind of the final outcome looks very drastic, we can explore different phasing opportunities, in much smaller steps. For example, here you can see that only a very kind of primary beginning of a small civic space can be achieved with probably the acquisition of several houses. And then it can grow if things go well, if it's well accepted, or if it economically it is well grounded, and then kind of the final long-term repair. This is just one example of how suburban fabric can be reweaved and infilled, and I wanted to show this as an example because this is a suburban redevelopment in the fringes of St. Louis, and what happened there is because they had already kind of a sprawl repair plan in place, including a new code, form-based code, a new regulating plan where they wanted to see things happening in their very highly suburbanized towns. They received, actually they were instrumental, their leadership was very instrumental in receiving some stimulus money for some of the realignments of roads. There was they were very successful in getting some money and realign their roads and follow up with this sprawl repair very aggressively. This is another thing which we pursued in the sprawl repair manual. Is not only design and regulation, but also how you will implement these things. And these are the steps for developers. These are practical steps for developers, for builders, municipalities also, which are interested in redevelopment of, in this particular case, the single-family subdivision. But these implementation protocols exist for all the other types, and basically starting from the larger regional context, that you can never do something without understanding the larger picture. And if a project actually can be proven to be really beneficial for the bigger regional context, actually it will be more easily procured, more easily approved, and more easily implemented. And these are basically the steps which need to be taken. Transformation of multifamily subdivision, and I'm marching here through a lot of these. Multifamily subdivisions actually are quite challenging. You can see here that the so-called garden apartments usually are dispersed on structures, disposition of buildings, big parking lots. So just imagine that such developments can be repaired is really quite radical and polemical in some cases. But we think that when there are developments like this on important intersections, they can become transit-oriented town centers. Again, we have to look at the bigger picture and where these places are located. You can see that this is a radical intervention. Many of the older apartments are taken away and replaced by new construction. So some of them are still preserved. This is a kind of zoom-in where there is a lake in the one of the corners of the development, where all the buildings were only kind of giving their backyards, so they were private. It was like a privatized amenity, and how you can transform the private lake into a community amenity with the main street actually leading all the way to the lake. Transformation of the shopping center into a town center. The shopping center is kind of a generic term for a group of commercial buildings that are developed or managed by one entity, and usually there are many features which are similar for shopping centers all around the country. There are many different classifications by the ULI or the International Shopping Centers Association, or whatever it was. There is a huge range, as I said, from the corner, from the kind of a corner store all the way to a lifestyle center in the millions of square feet. But this is a kind of a generic shopping center on several corners, and what you can do with, in case that you want to preserve the big boxes, some of them may be preserved as retail establishments, some of them can be converted into civic buildings, such as either university satellites, in some cases senior centers, daycare centers, schools. All these suburban communities, sprawl developments, are starved for a kind of civic amenities, so some of these buildings can be converted into such uses. Stores are usually very valuable components of neighborhoods and cities, but when they're embedded in wood fabric, actually storefronts are probably the most interesting streetscapes for pedestrians. You walk by the street, and until recently, shopping actually has been our greatest entertainment. I don't know whether recently this is the case with the economic crisis, but till recently this has been a kind of a very important place-making tool. However, with this, whenever there are high concentrations of commercial activities and not embedded in walkable fabric, basically everything is